Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Cloud Computing for the C-Suite show with Brad Nelson, an internationally recognised and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. This week we're excited to have as our special guests the CTO and CEO of Hyperscalers, Anoonay, Sinha and George Cvetanovski. Hyperscalers is a next-generation infrastructure provider operating out of Australia, USA, Europe, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea and India. Hi Dave and George. Anoonay, a warm welcome to you all, and it's exciting to have you on the C-Suite show this week.
Brad, David, thanks very much for having us. Great to be here.
Hi Brad, hi David, great to be here.
Yeah guys, I'm excited to have you on the show because we need another perspective on this stuff.
In this week's show, we'll be talking about that most in the C-suites don't understand the value of DevOps and cloud. However, it's no longer an option. Bringing them together is the only option. Over to you guys.
Yeah, this is an article I wrote in InfoWorld last week and got a lot of reaction. Basically, I'm stating this, that if you're a CEO or you're a CFO or you're a COO, and you're looking at your IT shop and they don't have DevOps in play and they're leveraging cloud, then you should be down there with sporting equipment, wrapping people in the head and getting them to understand the value of this technology. So ultimately, this is no longer something that we can take or leave. If you're going to have a cloud-based system, you're going to deploy workloads into the cloud. You're going to have some sort of an agile environment to update those applications in a continuous improvement basis, with the ability to kind of layer in existing needs that are coming from the business in terms of what those application workloads need to do and how they need to change, and even deploying new and net new systems in place and getting things done at the speed of need. So what we're doing is we're giving people a Ferrari, but we're telling them you're not allowed. We're arming it with people who can't drive. And the reality is that in cloud computing, if you don't have the right knowledge and uptake in terms of how this is going to play out, including integration of DevOps in different operational approaches and different development approaches, you're not going to find the value in cloud that everybody expects. And so this is no longer something that's optional. If you're going to be in the public cloud, you're going to leverage hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, you have to have some sort of a DevOps organization to support workloads on that environment. But I'd love to see what the hyperscalers guys think about this.
Yep.
I think, yeah, it's correct. I mean, DevOps and the way cloud providers or any enterprise working with cloud, they have to gel together. I mean, DevOps is something where everyone has to take initiatives. Even in terms of hyperscalers, although we are in infrastructure domain, still I believe DevOps play a role for us. For example, we are big time in platform as a service solutions, where we work with software vendors who give PaaS type of infrastructure solutions to us. Still, we integrate it with Ansible scripts. We integrate it with DevOps tools like the build utilities, GitHubs, and a lot of other scripting languages. That helps us to identify the way any app would work on top of a particular infrastructure. So what we do is take that platform as a service solution on multiple infrastructure consisting of hardwares, compute, storages, and then run our bottleneck tools, our optimizer utilities, and relate it with the platform as a service solution, and sort of do a continuous iteration of performance measurement and integrate it with DevOps process, where we keep on upgrading the platform solutions. We keep on upgrading the storage or software apps on top of those platform solutions. And that's how we evolve. That's how we evolve the infrastructure.
Yeah, look, again, I'll probably take a high-level approach to this, why the C-level doesn't understand the value of DevOps. And it's simply because they don't understand the value of IT in general. And if I could explain it for the C-level, every business is very unique. It has a unique set of processes that it goes through. And why do we use IT? Well, we use IT to make those processes much more efficient, right? So, a hospital that needs to, put through a lot more patients, a a scientific institution that needs to process a lot more stuff. Whatever the business might be, we use IT to make those processes more efficient. But what does that really mean? That means apps. So, right, we build apps, we design and build apps to make these business-specific processes more efficient, and I think that's where DevOps really comes into play. You know, in our age, everything runs in a cloud or cloud type environment. So when we are talking about apps, these apps really need to be cloud native ready, and DevOps, I think, provides the necessary tools and the necessary processes to ensure interoperability of the apps that your business analysts and your developers are building inside your business, that they comply to work in a cloud environment. So I think that's the key, to understand that we use IT to make business processes more efficient, and that means apps, and that means DevOps.
You said something very profound. I think that the C-levels don't understand the value of IT. Not alone DevOps, not alone cloud, not alone hyperscale architectures like you guys sell, infrastructure, you know, things like that. And so therefore kind of IT can get away with it. And I played this game when I was younger because no one understands what the hell I'm doing. Therefore, no one can call me on if I'm doing something wrong. It's a great place to be. However, ultimately, these people are in charge of the business. And now IT has become the disruptor, basically the driver that could make or break businesses. It's no longer, you know, something that's nice to have, an administrative and operational tool. So is this a case of the C-levels not necessarily taking time to understand something that should be important to them? Or is this a case of IT not educating the C-levels properly so they understand what questions to ask? But of course, they need to ask the question to IT. So in essence, they're causing more scrutiny to come back on them if they don't have the things in place. Or even a third option, so we call in outside auditors or consultants to kind of call these guys out on making sure they're using best practices and best technology, you know, things like that to make things work well. I mean, your technology included.
Yeah, look, I think all of the above, Dave, is very true, and I think you know, not understanding and being fearful of what you don't understand is a given. But in the end, they see IT as a means to make the business more efficient. They also probably see IT as a risk to making it less efficient if the project doesn't come off right. And I think what DevOps offers is a standardized means that ensures you know, the app design, development, implementation is goes through you know, with well, the risk is mitigated in all those three parts. So I think it is a lack of awareness. It's a fear of the unknown, and certainly DevOps has the potential to solve those problems.
I think it has also to do with the diverse range of solutions we have in DevOps space, and the challenge lies into exactly identifying your problem and identifying which of these DevOps tools solves your problem. So I think probably taking consultancy, doing your own research, or I mean, education. Exactly, yeah, education, exactly understanding your problem is the first thing which C-suite should probably invest time on, and that would lead them to a correct DevOps approach.
And efficiencies in their business. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and add something there. Sorry, Dave, if I can. I think as well that if the initial investment into the DevOps hasn't been taken into consideration when you're embarking on some sort of cloud strategy, you know, there's multiple strangleholds which not only happens with facilitating the cloud environment, but equally from the workforce strangle. You know, if you haven't got the DevOps to underpin the cloud development, you're going to lose staff. You know, you're not going to have staff that are happy because the facilitation isn't there. So, you know, pinning it back to the C-suites and for them to have the insight or the knowledge to share that knowledge or to actually identify what they don't know. I think that's one of the most important things, and not be afraid of saying what they don't know, because in effect their negligence on their inability to learn or wish to identify what they don't know is actually going to cost the business, you know, in many times, not only from the deficit of return on investment from a cloud point of view because the DevOps isn't underpinning it, but equally for not being able to retain good quality staff that are looking for the challenge in the workplace. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that's a very profound statement. I think that absolutely that's the case. In fact, to bring up a metric around that, most CEOs and COOs are aware that there's issues with IT based on the exit interviews of people who are leaving the company. And so they're putting forward, excellent people are leaving the company and they want to know why. They do very in-depth exit interviews and they tell them that they're not using technology correctly and they're making mistakes and they're very inefficient. And that's because I think that people have a tendency to run IT who are very politically astute and good at maintaining relationships, and therefore they get the promotions, where a lot of people that are in the know are not as good at that. And they end up being pushed down in the organization. They end up being frustrated if the decisions aren't being made to correctly move in the right direction. And so that's why I believe in very flat IT organizations, very hierarchical, where everybody has is 20 layers deep and things like that. It's tough to get things done. But I'd be interested from the hyperscalers guys, as you guys are working with enterprises out there, what are some of the frustrations you're seeing from the IT group in terms of C-suites understanding what they're doing? And if you're talking to C-suites and board level folks, which I assume you do at some time, what are their take on IT and their ability to kind of make things known and leverage best practices and the best technology? And by the way, the counter to this argument, if you talk to the C-suites, they would say that IT is addicted to technology and they keep leveraging whatever shiny object is coming down the road. And there's that counterpoint as well. And there's organizations like that where they just try anything. They haven't met, a technology they didn't like. They manage my magazine and therefore fail more than they should. Yeah. So what do you guys think?
I think it varies enterprise to enterprise. Every business is unique. And we're certainly seeing a lack of standardization across the very, very large monster type enterprises where there's so many different IT departments in there almost within every different vertical. So, getting the C-level to understand the challenges and the problems across all those verticals is almost next to impossible. But what they do understand is that, IT has the potential to solve many of the organization's problems and has the potential to boost productivity and efficiencies simply by using IT. I think most of them would agree that the days of manual-based systems of looking up a record or whatever it might be are long gone. But they also understand that the IT or lack of management of IT has the potential to even bring down an organization. And a good example might be Ingram Micro 10 years ago implemented a SAP system and it went all wrong. Subsequently, they had to do a big fire sale, right? So we can see monster enterprises actually in trying to find these efficiencies actually find something else completely. I
think it has little bit also to do with it works that way. I mean, the thinking that it has been working that way, so why to touch it? So, I mean, over the time, this is changing within thought process of C-suites, and I think exactly understanding the way we can penetrate into existing problems and being flexible to adopt to new solutions is something which requires education, which requires some research, and that's an important point where. Exactly making them understand the value of DevOps, the value of IT optimization is something which has to improve here.
Oh, that's a great question, David. There's so many multifaceted questions as well, which is I just love those ones. I think there's so many layers. There really are so many layers, and we've discussed many of those layers already. But just to highlight the fact that there's negligence in the learning curve with regards to the C-suites acknowledging what they don't know. I think that's one of the main frustrations. Now that is probably congruent with the size of the company they work for. And that is then how long they've worked for the business and what position of power they have as to how quickly they will change or admit they're wrong or admit they need to learn. So I think from this problem is probably more proportionate to the size of the organisation and the driving force behind the C-suite's management. And definitely from a CEO point of view and the CIO's point of view. And the CTO's point of view on who's actually driving the ship and what the stakeholders' expectations are with regards to the return on the investment and the importance of identifying DevOps as being the underpinning structure, obviously, behind all cloud, computing deployment, whether apps, whether it's on-prem, off-prem, hyperscaled, it really is underpinning everything. And if that's not identified from that level and driven from that level, then, like we've already said, you won't retain the good staff, you won't be innovating as quickly as you should, you won't be seeing the return on the investment that DevOps or an ongoing DevOps will give you. And essentially, you're going to see, and we've spoken about this actually a couple of weeks ago, about the ripple effect in regards to established organisations losing huge amounts of cash because you've got these young upstarts coming up that are, incorporating an ongoing DevOps solution. They are embracing cloud apps, new cloud innovations, new cloud technologies a lot quicker. Because of the bureaucracy and the hierarchical reign of the larger organisations. So I think there's a knock-on effect. The smaller organisations, the smaller startups can embrace it. A lot of them are millennials, and a lot of them are already well up on the fact that DevOps is an ongoing thing in order to drive successful cloud computing forward. Especially the way the internet and apps and smartphones and IoT and AI is being embraced. It's a huge deal for the bigger organisations to identify their shortfalls. And when they do, obviously there's a huge amount of change that needs to take place within the organisation and within the mindsets of the C-suite. So I think that's kind of answered the question as best I can.
That's a great response. Bring us home.
Well, great. Guys, it's always a great thing. I didn't even talk about recruitment in that question either. So just to add to that, if I may, very very quickly, DevOps is not only about supporting the functionality of cloud, but it really does underpin the culture of the organisation as well. And what I mean by that is that if you are not a company that's embracing DevOps to produce the best possible cloud computing experience that the internal user and the end user can experience, you're not going to be able to win over the best cloud technology individuals that are specialists in what they do, because they want to be seen to be working for the right people at the right time in their career to make a difference and to enjoy challenges that these opportunities offer. So yeah, we'll close the show on that note, I think. But yeah, I just wanted to add that little bit in there. It's something I thought was important that I missed. But Hyperscaler guys, George, Anoonay, it's been wonderful having you on the show this week.
Brad, thanks very much for having us. It's been great to be with you.
It was great, Brad. Thanks, David.
And David, thanks for you being on the show as well, sir. Always a pleasure.
It's always great to be here, Brad. Peace out.
Peace, man. Well, look, thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed watching this C-Suite show this week with the Hyperscaler guys. It's awesome. There's a link below in the description box to their organisation for the URL. So thanks again for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Hyperscalers are on Twitter as well, which is @Hyperscalers. David's on Twitter, which is @David Linthicum. And also myself on Twitter, which is @Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks again for watching.